I'm Marlene Sanders, Chair of the Board of Women's ENews, and we are thrilled to have you here to help us celebrate our second year of independent existence. I think you need a few words of background. Now, in the early 1960s, when I became a correspondent for ABC News, there were only 5 women correspondents total at the 3 networks. It was not until the women's movement of the 1970s that newswomen began to organize and push for progress. The women at the AP, the New York Times, Time, Newsweek, and Fortune were first, followed by women's action committees at the 3 networks. The time was right, and we made a great deal of progress. The numbers improved. Good, but not great. But there was one area we seemed unable to influence. Even our more visible presence in media organizations did not mean that stories about women's issues were covered often enough. In fact, we remained then and now barely visible, not newsworthy. Well, what to do? For a long time, we had no answer to that question. But timing in life is everything, and it may be that technology has come to the rescue. Women's ENews is the 21st century medium that we believe can make the difference. Now, to tell you more about our mission, you will shortly meet a tireless innovator and our dynamic leader, Women's ENews Editor-in-Chief Rita Henley Jensen. But first, as they say, a short pause for this message, a very short video. Please look at the screen nearest you.
Hello, I'm Dina Merrill. I'm happy to be here. This is my second year, and I'm happy to see such a wonderful turnout. Good work, Rita. As co-chair of the Republican Pro-Choice Coalition, I can tell you that all of us rely on the news that is distributed by Women ENews to keep ourselves involved and inform others. It's my pleasure to be back to pass the torch to this year's remarkable leaders and to introduce the editor-in-chief of Women's ENews, Rita Henley Jensen. Rita, please come up here.
Thank you so much. Thank you. God, what a thrill that is. It's so thrilling. Thank you, Dina. And thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. It is so exciting. Even with the feedback, You know, journalists don't get feedback very often, so this is good. Even I'm especially thankful because your being here tonight not only recognizes the significant work all of these leaders have done, often to great personal risk, but also the type of journalism Women's ENews creates every day. News that reflects what all journalism could be and should be. It is inclusive, recording the experiences and concerns of people of all races and ethnicities, and I think you could tell that by the crowd tonight. And it is global, covering stories from Bahrain to Brooklyn, and you could also tell that from the crowd and our leaders tonight. It is factual and it is balanced. The women honored here tonight, and you'll meet them all very soon, reflect the range of issues Women's ENews covers, the stuff of women's public lives everywhere. Women's ENews reporters are focused not only on wars and Washington, although we do cover a bit of both. They also look outside the box to cover the vast global social movement for women's equality that is changing every aspect of our lives and the lives of so many across the globe, pushing and pushing and pushing to provide the blessings of democracy, peace, and prosperity to all women, and thus to all. Now, I am often asked if Women's ENews is an advocacy organization or a news organization, a news operation. It's simple. We're a news operation. Because of our mandate to bridge the gender gap in news coverage, we report on many controversial issues such as abortion rights, Title IX, and parity in wages. Yet we do not see ourselves as occupying a narrow news niche. We believe that Women's ENews is the medium for women's full participation in every item on our nation's agenda, and perhaps the United Nations as well. Why not? Our reporters are professionals who ask not only who, what, where, and when, but also, how does this event or policy affect women? And we have reporters all over the world, and they're asking this question over and over again and delivering the answers to our readers. We're thrilled. And even better, with our brand spanking new Arabic version of Women's ENews, managed by Mona El Tahawi, and she's here tonight. Our news gathering will be enormously enhanced as Mona seeks out journalists to file stories specifically for that site, but also available for the English language site. Created in response to the strong readership we have in Arabic nations, yes, that's true, it could serve as a model for Women's ENews in other languages too. I too, we're all journalists, Marlene and everybody. I want to give you just a little bit of background too. We were launched 3 years ago in response to the reality that women virtually had no space on the commentary pages in this nation's daily newspapers, and their views were rarely sought for the news pages or the broadcasts. News media were ignoring the initiatives and concerns of more than half their audiences, or their potential audiences, because they complain a lot they're losing women as an audience. No surprise, though. Women are not in agenda-setting positions in the news media, even though for more than 25 years they have been more than half and often 70 to 80% of the graduates of journalism and communications programs. And after my recent trip to a UN meeting to Lebanon, I can add that this state of affairs is true around the world. Women are heavily represented in the entry-level positions in the news media and scarce in the management suites. This is not to complain about another case of job discrimination. This has serious consequences for all women, regardless of our occupation, whether we're a stay-at-home full-time parent, whether we've scorned marriage and pursued a full-time high-intensity career, or like many of us, trying to blend parenting and work. Without a news media to deliver to us and those who care about us the vital information about public policies that directly concern our well-being, women's right to know is fundamentally compromised, and the ability to create communities of interest to act in women's own self-interest is dramatically curtailed. The reverse is true as well. I just want to give you one example. We recently received an email from a Massachusetts network of rape counseling services thanking us for a small item that was posted to our website. We have about more than 100,000 readers a month, and distributed via our email service, which we believe reaches about 2.5 million readers a month. So the email said, "Thanks for including the threat of budget cuts eliminating all funding for rape crisis centers in Massachusetts. The public pressure has made a big difference. They've already restored a portion of the budget on Monday." Wow! They restored what they had planned to cut. This is the kind of feedback every journalist dreams of. This is what we live for. This is what we want to hear, that we did our job well. We delivered the facts and the context, and we made an impact. Thanks. And that's what we want to do. We want to make an impact to improve women's lives. And our influence, we're just a small website, not a huge staff. But our influence is magnified because as we gain in our credibility and our reach, other news outlets are picking us up. They're using our quotes. They're doing their own version. You can track it. And that's part of our job, too, is to encourage good journalism. That's what we call good journalism. And so, as we enter our 4th year, we are rededicating ourselves to this principle, delivering news to our readers that enables and encourages them to participate fully in the art and the craft of political power. Thank you so much for being here tonight. And now I want to introduce, where are you, Mary Alice, our terrific host for this evening. You all know Mary Alice Williams, one of the founders of CNN. Thank you.
Thank you, Rita, and congratulations. It's my pleasure now to introduce the recipient of our Ida B. Wells Award. Ida B. Wells was a remarkable woman, born in 1862, just months before the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation. In spite of incredible hardship, she completed studies at Rust College and in 1888 became a teacher in Memphis, where she also became an editor and co-owner of a local black newspaper, the Free Speech and Headlight. Wells used her paper to attack the evils of lynching, bravely facing threats against her life. In 1909, she was a founding member of the Committee of 40, which went on to become the NAACP. She also became a tireless worker for women's suffrage and joined in the famous 1913 March. You remember that one. The famous 1913 March for universal suffrage in Washington, D.C. Wells continued her activism on behalf of civil and women's rights until her death in 1931. She was the model journalist we at Women's ENews want to emulate. We are so proud this year to honor Rana Husseini with the Ida B. Wells Award. She broke the story, Jordanian women are being murdered by their relatives for the sake of honor. Want me to repeat that? Offenses deemed to be worthy of these ad hoc death sentences include talking to a man who isn't a close family relation, or even being raped. These murders, or honor killings, are treated as heroic acts by part of the community to save a family's reputation. Jordan's justice system often condones these crimes, which, by the way, make up 25% of its annual homicides, by giving the murderers jail time ranging from 3 months to a year. Husseini's journalism ended her nation's ability to look away from the carnage, and it led to important changes. Husseini received both a bachelor's and master's degree from Oklahoma City University before returning to her home country to work for the Jordan Times. In 1999, Husseini won the prestigious Reebok Human Rights Award. She served as the regional consultant for Equality Now, and previously as campaign and regional consultant for the United Nations Development Fund for Women. Please welcome our winner of the Ida B. Wells Award for Bravery in Journalism, Rana Husseini. Oh, wait. And we have a plaque.